following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Every day, citizens around the country are faced with new dilemmas. Dilemmas that affect them profoundly. Whether it's injustice, discrimination, falling through the cracks, scandals and cronyism, balances of power, ethics, religious freedoms, state versus citizens, and unfunded mandates, and the list goes on and on and on. Welcome to Speak Up. It's directed at those who have fallen through the cracks, and it gives them a voice. It's your turn to speak up, to stand up and fight back.
Welcome to Speak Up. I'm Kevin Avard, your host, and today we're going to be talking with the candidate for Executive Council. He's former Executive Counselor Dave Wheeler. I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Kevin.
Appreciate it. And
Thanks for having me.
I'm honored that you've come. We've spoken in the past. Usually I see you at the Capitol when I was a state rep, and one of the issues that I actually addressed with you was the voter fraud. And you were not voter fraud, the mortgage fraud.
Mortgage fraud. We talked a lot
there
about
is
that.
Voter fraud too. we could talk about that later.
Yeah.
But you were one of the executive counselors that was actually aware of what's going on, seniors losing their homes and whatnot. But welcome to the show. I think one of my first things that I wanted to talk to you about, Dave, it's scaring me, but there seems to be a syndrome, whether it's with the feds or even locally. It's called the Pelosi syndrome, whereas we have to pass legislation before we can find out what's in it. And as of recently, I believe Governor Maggie Hassan is going to try to push through some legislation that nobody's had their eyes on.
Yeah,
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. The last Wednesday's council meeting brought up at the very last minute, like 15 minutes before it was time to vote on the item. And I guess, what the public probably needs to understand is usually the councilors get all their items several days in advance, and the agenda is posted on the internet so that the public has a chance to call up their councilors and say, hey, did you know this about this item, or do you know that about that item? And so it's very useful public input. But this item, which is a contract amendment to the managed care Medicaid contracts, $292 million item, and the councilors only received it 15 minutes before the vote. And ultimately, they passed this contract amendment, one of the largest contracts ever, without even reading it. So I'm sure that's what you mean by the Pelosi system syndrome has come to New Hampshire.
Is that the spirit of transparency that you're used to?
Not at all. Not at all. Councilor Sununu and Councilor Kenny objected to, and strenuously objected to having a vote on this, not even being able to read it. They were offered at best a 2-hour recess, but you can't read a 160-page contract
and digest it
in 2 hours, and even more importantly, get some input from the constituents and community. I know that the developmentally disabled community has had a lot of heartache in general over these managed care contracts, where what it is all people who are getting Medicaid have to pick, basically, let's call it an HMO. Mm-hmm. They have to pick a government-sponsored HMO, one of 2 or 3 contractors, and they have to stay within this group. So the change happened about 2 years ago, where they are no longer what we call a fee-for-service type Medicaid system. They have to stay in their own HMO. They can't go to the doctor of their choice anymore. And so what this did is
all in the spirit of Obamacare, of course.
Yep, and this has to do with Obamacare, because this contract is here because the legislature added 50,000 new people to the welfare rolls, 50,000 new people getting Medicare. And in fact, the Health and Human Services Commissioner testified in his short explanation of this contract amendment that he expected to be quite a bit more than 50,000 new people on welfare.
Shouldn't they be focusing on creating an atmosphere or a community where businesses could come instead of expanding welfare? I mean, when are we're going to break the bank? It's probably already broken, and people haven't felt this yet.
Yeah, the
This is
problem
alarming.
is you get more people in the wagon than you have pulling the wagon.
Right.
And pretty soon you don't have the economic strength to pull the wagon, then you can't help the people who really need to be helped. A lot of this $292 million is federal funds for the first couple of years. But where does that leave New Hampshire when those federal funds dry up, like they almost always do?
They always do. They always do. And the thing is, I think it was the Ryan budget said that they're not going to be able to fund Medicaid at its full rate already.
Right.
And we're 17, possibly $18 trillion already in debt. They're printing money. Inflation's going to go up. The economy is going to, but you can't continue to do this. And yet they sneak it through it in 15 minutes.
15 minutes, and this is going to be a $292 million New Hampshire problem, I predict, over and above what the feds have to come up with for Medicaid within the existing system. This type of staggering number means sales or an income tax. That's what it means.
Oh, that'll boost the economy.
Yeah, that really does not help New Hampshire at all. That certainly just strips away any New Hampshire advantage that we have left.
It's frightening what's going on. You have the gas tax, you have the Medicaid expansion. Here in Hillsborough County, there's a 9% county tax that just went up. They voted more taxes there. There's unfunded mandates, unfunded liabilities that with the pensions. There's all kinds of creepy things that are going on. You have lawsuits with one of the hospitals because of some geriatric gerrymandering with the law way back when.
Yep.
When are all these things going to come to roost?
It's something that we really need to get a handle on, and that's why I'm running for office. At the state level, I really want to help get a handle on this. Mm-hmm. Our borrowing at the state level is beginning to look like Congress borrowing money. We used to be borrowing money, approximately 5 to 5.5%, 6% of our general fund revenues. We're pushing 8% now. Bonding companies, this year have said we don't have a favorable outlook anymore. We're in jeopardy of losing our bond rating.
Which means the price of borrowing money.
Price of borrowing money goes up.
Is the media talking about this? Is anybody in the media talking about this at all?
We are.
Yeah.
So let's start.
Yes. Speak
we
up.
are. So we're going to speak up about this. And that's partly why I'm running. I'm very disturbed. I'm a lifelong resident of New Hampshire, and I'm concerned the direction that we're going in. Here at the state level, I'm concerned about the direction we're going in the federal level. $18 trillion of debt. It's unsustainable.
With the illegal people coming to our country, they're flying them in. The feds are flying them in at a cost of $87 million. Yeah. And they're going into who knows where. They're going to be absorbed into the communities all around the country. The communities are going to have to absorb that on top of these other loads. When do people start pulling their hair and screaming?
The last time I checked, when I wasn't in office, it was costing us $2 million a year to house criminal aliens in our jails. Aliens that have, illegals that have committed crimes, just in New Hampshire jails.
No, I think Obama took care of that, though. Didn't he release a lot?
Yeah.
Right? There were 32,000?
Yeah. And we would send them back eventually, but we'd have to house them for 9, 10, 12 months.
Right.
Before it got through the system, the paperwork caught up with them and sent them back.
And you know what's the irony of all this is we have a Marine in Mexico who just went over the border, made a mistake, whatever you want to think about the details, send them back home. The president hasn't done anything to help this guy out. And yet, you know, we want to ask Congress for billions of dollars for these illegals. There's something just really wrong about the whole system. Everything is upside down. It's as though somebody is breaking this on purpose. You can't dream this stuff up. You know, there's all kinds of issues that, you know, we have the rail system that's coming up. Is that going to benefit the budget? Is that going to benefit New Hampshire in any way?
You know, when I was on the council, I think it's pretty well known that, you know, I voted against spending a couple $1 million on studying the commuter rail again. It would be the 4th study that's been done.
Did anybody pass the test?
Yeah. We'll have the results of that study soon. It's interesting that with the Downeaster, for instance, that loses $8 to $10 million a year, and people call that a success. I get when you're on the council or in state government, the legislature, or the House, the buck stops with you. You got to pay for this. You got to find the money to pay for this commuter rail. The original proposal at the time and the study was studying commuter rail from Lowell to Concord. We already know that that's going to be a financial loser, and we already know that the cost is going to be in the neighborhood of $1.5 billion when you include the interest to build the infrastructure to run the train. Then you've got to buy the train set, and then you've got to subsidize the operating cost.
But Dave, the federal government's going to pay for all this.
The federal government, you know, is just our back right-hand pocket, as opposed to the state government is our front left-hand pocket. It's still us. And the reality is that every dollar we're spending now at the federal level, 40% of that is borrowed, and we're not paying it back. We're just adding and adding to our debt.
Which will help our bond rating.
Yeah.
I'm being funny.
I know.
I'm not being. This is just.
I know.
No, if you're not paying attention, this type of stuff is going to catch up, and your quality of life is going to, your property values, everything, your food prices, everything's going to go up.
And as a country and as a state, we can't remain strong unless we're financially stable.
Right.
We cannot continue to borrow money at the federal level or at the state level like we're doing it.
If we want to attract businesses to New Hampshire, instead of deregulating and making or flattening out the BT or whatever, you know, instead of doing that, they're creating supposedly an infrastructure, but somebody's got to pay for all that and then continue paying for that. And you're increasing the welfare base, so the businesses are going to have to absorb that. The energy costs are going up. They're getting rid of the power plant.
I know.
They don't have a plan B. Who's running the store here? As an executive counselor, you're part of the checks and balances.
Well, like, for instance, some of the things that a counselor could do, things I've been involved in the past. As you know, we have a Christmas tree farm in Milford, and I have 10 acres in the very back of my Christmas tree lot that I can't get to without crossing a wetland, and I want to plant some of the Christmas trees on the other side. So I needed a wetlands permit. I mean, this is just one area of...
How much did that cost you, if you don't mind me asking?
It was a cost in time more than the cost in money. It was a few $100s for the permit. I am crossing woods with a few puddles between trees. But this is the kicker, the paperwork. I wanted to find out the process and learn about the process and what it took. It took me 3 days to fill out the paperwork.
How many trees? Come on. I'm just kidding. How many trees did that cost you? Meaning in paper. 3 days in paperwork.
3 days in paperwork just to get across a few puddles so I can plant some Christmas trees, so I can employ some people, so I can cut some Christmas trees, so I can employ some more people. Just a very simplistic example of regulation that is just out of control. You know, another item we were working on, and maybe you remember this when you were in the legislature and seen it on the news, the state banned lemonade stands for kids.
I swear to you, God is my witness. I drove by one yesterday. It was around it was on Broad Street, And it was right before the circle, and I wanted to stop, but I was in a hurry. I was just going to give the kids 50 cents.
Yeah.
Keep the lemonade. It broke my heart, and yet it was wonderful to see. It was a hot day. They were out there trying to make a living.
Well, we basically got
That's
that
true.
fixed, but as an executive counselor, we hire the Commissioner of Health and Human Services. We hire the Commissioner of Environmental Services in the previous example, and so we have some leverage to say, what are you doing? The lemonade thing and cooking brownies and jellies and jams came under this new law about a home kitchen license. So if you wanted to get on the first rung of the economic ladder and you want to have your own proprietary recipe for strawberry jam, you would have to give up your tax return to make sure you're only selling a few jars of jelly, and give up your proprietary recipes, send all the flavors of your jelly off to Maine to be tested, all to get on the bottom of the ladder. Have your water in your house tested annually, and you just have so much bureaucracy and paperwork you couldn't get started. And I said, this is ridiculous. So I found a legislator who understood the problem, had him put in the bill, talked to the Commissioner of Health and Human Services and brought this to their attention, and it was relatively easy. They said, yeah, this is ridiculous. So they came in and supported the legislation, and now you can make up to $10,000 worth of brownies, jellies, and jams before you have to have the state inspect your jelly and jam and brownies, as long as you just label it where it came from. So if there ever is a problem, it can be tracked back to who made it. So another example of government getting in the way of people just making a few extra bucks, trying to work their way up the ladder.
What happened over the last 50, 60 years? Mayberry's gone.
Yeah.
It really is. It seems like they're micromanaging every part of our lives. Whether it's this Medicaid expansion, whether it's Obamacare. From what I understand, once you sign up for Obamacare, there's a little phrase that says there's no reasonable expectation of privacy. So you're giving up your privacy rights, which basically null and voids the HIPAA law. I mean, Congress was having hearings on this particular thing. So the IRS, which is very transparent, knows everything about you and can use anything that they want against you. I'm sick of this. This is like out of control. Who's the real wackos here? Because you're raising your voice and because you're getting angry with what's going on, it's natural. You're alive and you're paying attention. Sure. If you're not angry, you're not paying attention.
Well, this summer I've been looking at my family heritage, and the Wheelers came to Concord, Mass. Somewhere around 1635, and so I was researching their history and just kind of reflecting on why they came here. They came here for religious freedom, freedom from other tyrannies, and saying, this really concerns me. They came here because they were told where they had to go to church, basically. And now today we're being told where and what health care we must buy. And really there's not a lot of difference between why they came here and what's happening to us today. So I think it's critical, the 2014 elections, that we put people back in office that are going to fight for freedom.
Right.
The citizens have minds of their own. They can make good decisions for themselves, make better decisions for themselves than government can make for them.
There's something, this is probably not popular for me to say, but I'm really tired of the establishment. We're $18 trillion in debt, and it seems like it's in both parties. I'm a conservative Republican. I've always been a conservative Republican. I haven't left the party. But I remember Ronald Reagan when he said he once was a Democrat. Yeah. And the Democratic Party does not look anything like the days of Jack Kennedy. Yeah. It doesn't look anything like it. And when it left, Ronald Reagan left with it. Yeah. And it seems to me that the establishment these days is doing something very similar, and it's playing both sides. Yeah. And you really can't tell the difference between both. They're both looking out for themselves. I say establishment, as I know there's an individual, he's running for governor. He was in the newspaper today. I mean, he donated half a $500,000 to the Democratic Party, and yet he's running as a Republican.
And I have the same issue with this council race. My opponent and his wife personally have given thousands of dollars to Democrats. His trade association, which he is the director for New Hampshire from, has given $750,000 to Democrats and $750,000 to Republicans every 2 years.
What does
They
that
play
mean?
both sides.
Yeah.
And I think people are tired of that.
Is that just hedging your bets?
I think they want a voice on both sides, and I'm just not like that. That bristles me. I consider myself a very principled person. I consider it my responsibility to tell the constituents where I stand on issues ahead of time. And I also have that problem with my opponent. He won't tell the people where he stands on major issues, even on minor issues. It's vote for me, I'm a doctor. And
Oh, that gives them license to.
well, and I think that's a problem. He's not going to be able to vote on any of this Obamacare because he's a doctor. It all affects him. He admits 50% of his paycheck comes from the government, Medicare, Medicaid payments.
So that he has to recuse
He's going to
himself.
have to recuse himself on all Health and Human Services items. He's on the board of a major insurance company. He's going to have to recuse himself on voting for the insurance commissioner and on insurance issues. Leaves District 5 in Nashua area residents without any representation on the issues that are going to be huge in 2014 and 15
And
16.
those are definitely going to be issues.
Huge.
I think there's going to be a Donnybrook about Medicaid expansion. It's supposed to sunset if it doesn't get funded at 100%. You're going to need some people with courage in the Senate. And I'm running for Senate myself, but you're going to need people to say, hey, look, it didn't work. Sorry.
There won't be a political easy vote at all.
No, it never is. And I think that's by design. Now, as an executive counselor, I mean, these things come before you all the time as well. You're part of the checks and balances. We're supposed to have a weak governor, accountable to people that will hold the governor accountable. Right now, doesn't look like it's a good match.
Yep. I didn't support the Obamacare exchanges when I was on the council before. And I will do whatever I can on the executive council to repeal Obamacare at the state level. And we don't have a lot of control, but we do have some control. And this Medicaid expansion was one of them. It's going to come back and bite us. We just can't sustain that kind of spending.
And so, going down the list, you have the gas taxes, you have the county taxes going up, you have the unfunded liabilities that are coming, you have the potential rails going up, you have the energy costs that are going to skyrocket, especially if that power plant goes down. Why is that power plant going down? Why are they proposing that?
I think someone struck a deal with clean air credits a long time ago and put all the burden on this plant. The plant really needs to stay open. It's a ton cleaner than it used to be, and it can be even cleaner. It burns coal, made in the USA, coal.
They invested how many million? 30 million?
Lots of money in
the scrubber.
The scrubbers on the smokestacks, lots.
All for naught.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah.
Another issue that a lot of people are really concerned with, and I know some teachers are, even some union teachers are worried about this Common Core thing. It strips local control. It just does. Everybody's testing to another standard that Washington is making. Was it the city? Was it the executive council that was responsible for this? Because it never went to the legislator. Nobody in the House or the Senate voted on this Common Core thing.
Yeah, the Common Core thing kind of came right after I got out of the council, and oftentimes there's federal education grants that include Common Core items. There were a lot of grants for computers and other hardware type items with Common Core that I have seen, but I think the most important thing to know about the Common Core is, and about the New Hampshire way, that these decisions made locally give us the best education.
Right.
Whenever it comes down from the federal government, one size fits all, it's not good. I wasn't a big fan of No Child Left Behind, and that, of course, was
I wasn't either.
Came from a Republican administration.
That's right.
And so,
and it's time that Republicans hold their own accountable. It really is, and there has to be a difference. There has to be one side. It doesn't look like the other side. If there's going to be compromise, I understand that has to happen from time to time, but also there has to be a Donnybrook when it comes to exchange of ideas. And if the people don't want something, they don't have to compromise something that they don't want. It's time for people to get in there to fight for, hey, look, the people don't want this. You're not smarter than them. You're one versus 1,000 or 100,000 or 500,000. And we just see this top-down management all the time. We're getting tired of it. That's why a lot of people are running for office. I'm glad you're running for office.
Thank you. Thank you.
Some of the the other issues that people don't like talking about are there seems to be some corruption in our government, and everybody says it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about it. They all want to talk about the economy. And what I mean by corruption, I just think that there are a lot of voices from different sectors in our bureaucracies, whether it's the Attorney General's office or the family courts or all these areas. They seem to be unaccountable to the voices of the people when they complain. They complain to the legislature, and it goes nowhere. They wait them out. And in my opinion, that's corruption.
Well, I think maybe you'd put the mortgage fraud
Way up there
in that category. I had constituents who were paying the wrong place for 5 months. Their mortgage was sold. The sale was never recorded at the Registry of Deeds, and a lot of sales aren't today. People should actually check their mortgages and see if at the Registry of Deeds, if the person they're sending the check to is the person of record at the Registry of Deeds. And I bet 25 to 30% will find out that their checks are going someplace other than who the Registry of Deeds says owns their mortgage.
I remember talking to you about this. I remember the 2020 episode. There was a lot of robo-signing we were talking about.
Yep.
And this is a real thing, and a lot of the people that are targeted are seniors.
Yeah.
And we had Marie Mueller here on the show at one point, and she lost her home. She got the junk mail.
Yeah.
She thought that this piece of letter was just junk mail, but she happened to open it up. Sure enough, somebody bought her mortgage. She said, okay, all right, I understand. Well, now that we own your title or we own your mortgage, we're going to require you to buy our insurance, which I thought was illegal.
Yeah.
But maybe I don't know. But that happened to be more expensive than the insurance that she already had.
Sure.
So that put her over her fixed income budget. So she refinanced with this new mortgage company who held on to 3 different checks and then never cashed them and then sent them back to her saying, we reject you, and they started the foreclosure process. Yeah. They then wholesale or auction off the house for a fraction of what it was actually worth. The guy comes in, takes all her furniture, throws it out on the lawn. The sheriff is there trying to enforce, and it's a nightmare. And this is an old lady who speaks broken English.
Right.
Huh. Right. And who's going to help her? Yeah. Did the Attorney General's office? Did anybody in Health and Human Services? Did any department help this lady? Yeah. She came to the redress committee. She filed the complaint. It was founded. It was put into the New Hampshire calendar, and the Democrats killed the committee. And there she lays without a home.
You know, I need to say that as far as New Hampshire chartered banks go, I rarely saw a problem. These are the big boys, the federally chartered banks, let's say, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, those banks who hire separate servicers. Like one of the most trouble I ran into was with American Home Mortgage Servicing Company, which we went to the Secretary of State's office. They weren't even registered to do business in New Hampshire. When someone called on it, they finally registered. We find out they were an India corporation. You'd call them on the phone. You couldn't get a hold of people. They couldn't speak English. When you could get a hold of people, they'd say, okay, we'll get this straightened out. Send this document, that document. People would do it. They claimed they never got them. They were allowing the foreclosure clock to tick so that they could foreclose. It was a mess.
That's frightening.
Yeah.
And that attacks your property rights. That attacks you on so many different levels. It seems, is anything secure? And who's looking out for your interests at that point?
You know, it's just not like it used to be when you go down to the Nashua Bank and say, you know, you know, I've lived in Nashville my whole life and I want to get a mortgage. And they say, yeah, we know you. You're a good person. You come from a good family. Here's the mortgage. 5 years later, you lose your job and you're a month behind. So you go down to Main Street, knock on the door and say, hey, I lost my job, but I'm going to be okay. Can you, just refinance for me? And they say, yeah, we'll help you. You've always paid your bills. We'll help you. Now your mortgage is sitting in some pool of mortgages somewhere, chopped up into derivatives, managed by a trust fund manager, who knows, might be from a company owned in China or another country. What do they care about you? My advice to New Hampshire residents is, if you get your mortgage in a New Hampshire chartered bank, where you can go in and talk to somebody if you do run into legitimate difficulties. It's just a whole different world out there.
It really is. Are there any other issues that you want to bring up, Dave? I mean, I could go on and on and on, and my heart is filled. I'm pent up because I believe in the New Hampshire way. I really think this is one of the best places in our country to live. I really do. I love my neighbors. I love my community. We recently had the Market Basket on, and they were talking about how there's 71 stores that no unions making everybody strike. They're doing it because they love their community. They love what Market Basket's been doing for the last 40 years or 50 years, and they're coming together. There's solidarity, and we want to maintain that quality of life. But there's a rain cloud that's got to clear up, and that's a lot of debt and mismanagement. It's troubling, and it's people that are willing to say, okay, this is the truth. What are we going to do with it?
And I think we need, we need people to stand up in all areas like these people are standing up. They're standing up for what they believe in. I'm very proud of them. I don't know all the details behind all of this. It sounds to me like they were treated, very well in the past. It sounds, from what I read in the newspapers, like Demoulas was managed very well, carried very little debt. I think we as consumers would agree that the prices at Market Basket are good.
Very competitive.
Very competitive, compared to the other grocery stores. So I wish them the best in their endeavor.
What's your biggest challenge right now?
My biggest challenge right now, I think, since we're in Nashua, I'd like to talk about commuter rail just a bit more.
Okay.
I think it can be a bit, a little bit misunderstood, like maybe it would be the panacea. But so I think we need to talk about that. If we were to bring commuter rail to Nashua, and the further north we go, the more expensive it gets, the more money it loses. If we go to Concord, what would that do to the bus service that we have in Nashua?
Which is running in the black, right?
Yeah, I want people to know that the Nashua portion of the Boston Express, going from exit 8 down to Boston, is running in the black, which is amazing. We have a government, not subsidized, public transportation system running in the black. What happens if the train takes 25% of those customers and they ride the train? What happens if 50% of those customers ride the train?
And is the train going to save the customers money? Is it going to save the taxpayers money?
Will we be subsidizing both the train and the bus now? We got something that's working. We need to be very careful that we don't mess it up. I think maybe we need to take baby steps. If we're going to try this train idea, we'll find out when the study gets back. Maybe we try it to the state line and see if it works. See how it would connect intermodally from, let's say, buses might come down from Concord or from the Manchester airport.
Do you know of any rail system in our country that's for public transportation that's running in the black?
I don't know of any. And like I mentioned earlier, the Downeaster loses money, and that's called a success. It's not what I call a success.
Amtrak, is that making money for
anybody? The one
anybody?
going up through Vermont, losing money. Up the 91 corridor, that's losing money. So we really need to decide whether we're going to saddle the next generation with big losses. We would have to come up in New Hampshire with around $10 million to subsidize the train if we build it.
Is there an argument on any level that this rail is going to save the taxpayers any money, or is it going to invite new business to the area? Is that why they're proposing this?
Well, some people say it will invite new business. I'm not so sure about that. One of the other issues that's tricky about the train is there's no funding stream for the train other than the fare box. When you have people, when we're building highways in New Hampshire, the money that comes from the gas tax goes only for road-related items. And some will argue that a little of that goes to state police because they're policing the roads, and which is true. But I mean, the gas tax and registering your car and such as that does not pay for welfare. It stays within roads. But in New Hampshire, it's unconstitutional for gas tax to pay for trains. So there's no funding stream for that train other than the fare box. When we're improving our roads, there's a funding stream. It's a user fee. Buy the gas, you pay the tax, it builds the road. So that makes it a problem with the train. Where do I get this $10 million? Do I take it from the developmentally disabled? Do I take it from education? Or do I tax the people $10 million more? So when you're at the state government level, you're responsible for finding the money. It's got to come from somewhere. It's not free.
Now, a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot of people, well, a lot of people, they're talking that with all these new spending sprees, whatever, it's going to be an income tax. That'll be one of the ways that they support this. I'm frightened, and that won't make your property taxes go any lower. Once the government has their grips on your income, they don't want to let that go. They feel entitled to this. That's not your money. And that's
the old argument of pass an income tax, your property taxes will go down. It's never worked in any other state. The only way that could work is if the property tax were constitutionally eliminated and you had an income tax. Maybe that could work. But in no other state in the union, when they use the argument, give us an income tax, your property taxes will go down, never happened. Never happened.
And then
it's just counterintuitive to government. Government always wants more and more.
it seems like this whole idea of limited government it's got to start taking root again. And the Republican Party's got to remember that's what we stand for.
Yes.
This Medicaid expansion was a disaster. It was the union leader recently did an article asking one question: how are we going to fund it? Who's going to pay for it? Any ideas? Because once the feds don't pony up, after 3 years, we got this mess. Even if they funded it for the 3 years, now you got 50, 60, 70, 100,000 new people on welfare, which are not going to want to break away from that. How do you stop that? You're creating, you're killing the middle class. You're killing it. You're saying you're for it, but you're killing it, and you're making these people, forcing them into a system where they have to have their hand out. And all in this, we care type of syndrome.
Right. Well, we do care, and we can't help those people that are truly in need unless we have a strong economy where all those who can work can find a job, so we can help the truly needy.
And they can thrive, they can flourish. They don't want to just subsist. And that's the difference. There's hope. There is hope. There is hope if we could just say enough with the spending. We did it under O'Brien. Somebody had to be a bad guy here and cut the budget, and that was tough. It's tough to say, no, we have to stop, we have to be responsible. That's tough love. You can't just say yes here, yes here, yes here. There was supposed to be a freeze on hiring on state workers, wasn't there?
Right.
What happened to that?
Right. Apparently there were many exceptions to the rule because that didn't happen.
And so that, again, goes against the budget, and what was saved was now, it's gone.
And we're not putting money in the rainy day fund like we should. Because we don't have a sales or income tax, the bonding companies would like to see us have a rainy day fund where we have 50, 60 million in the bank to go through economic, natural peaks and valleys. And that helps keep our bond rating up. By having some reserves,
right?
Like all of us personally, especially when you get to be our age,
Yes.
should have a little bit of reserve to go through Pico Valley. You know, financial planners will tell you, you know, you should have a couple months' salaries saved aside in cash in case you lose your job.
Is the state any
In
different?
case your car blows up. And to be a strong economic state, we should have our rainy day fund full so that we can handle the state's economic ups and downs, revenue shortfalls, things we can't predict.
You know, you're a Republican.
Sure.
Yeah, and you basically believe in the Constitution.
Absolutely.
You believe that our party platform supports the Constitution.
Yeah.
And there is a platform. How far are we allowed to stray from that platform? And if we are allowed to stray from that, why have one?
Well,
That's a lot of questions.
That's a lot of questions. I can say this. Consider myself a Republican Party platform person. I support the whole platform. Actually, every plank of it, I support. Are you still a Republican if you disagree with one or two items? Yeah, probably. But when you get into supporting excessive spending, when you turn your back on the Second Amendment,
Which is an issue that we're constantly being barraged with. There's this constant wave of legislation trying to trickle it, trying to chip away at it. Now they're chipping away at the First Amendment.
Yep.
What gives? Doesn't anybody believe in our Constitution anymore?
Yeah, and by the way, that's because it's timely. You know, the Supreme Court decision striking down Massachusetts' 35-foot no protest, no speech.
Buffer zone.
Buffer zone, they call it. Was quite a agreed upon decision, and I think both conservatives and liberals know that we don't want to eliminate free speech. That was a mistake at the state level. I know that Massachusetts is trying to rewrite it to get around this decision. But if you can't speak your mind politically, are you really free?
Well, that's the thing, and I think under the First Amendment, the Senate is supposed to be a deliberative body. They could have waited till this decision came down, and they didn't wait. There was a rush to this. Yeah. And then not only, is somebody thinking, what is the 14th Amendment? Does anybody know what the 14th Amendment really is about? It's about the equal protection under the law. Mm-hmm. And if it's okay for the unions to protest, which it is, it's their right. You got people on the sidewalk now for Market Basket saying, look, don't shop here. Yeah. That's their right. That is your God-given American right to protest.
And they are certainly closer than 35 feet to the entrance.
Oh my gosh, when it was the right to work issue, listen, I walked through those pickets. I walked through those gauntlets, and I saw the blowhorns. I saw the fingers. I saw the fists. Yeah. That was their right. It was intimidating. It was scary. But when you stood on your principles, there's going to be people that will decide against you. I'll be the same person though that fights for their rights when they're hurting on other things. And if you can vote for principled people, you know what you're going to get in the labeling. Yeah. But now, the Senate they passed this buffer zone, and knowing there's legislation pending, why didn't they wait? Yeah. I don't get it.
Usually I think it would be responsible to wait and see what the Supreme Court says, but they didn't.
But there it's under assault. Yeah. The Second Amendment is under the assault on all different kinds of laws. We'll tax the bullets, or we'll register. All these other things. Why are they trying to water this down? What are they going to get out of it?
There's just people out there that don't believe the Second Amendment should exist. We got this stubborn thing in the way called the Constitution, and they will try to pass laws around it. And it is a wonderful document. It's a great document, but it's only as good as the men and women who will uphold it in the legislature and in the courts.
Dave, wasn't the Second Amendment, just clarify, sure. Wasn't it there, there wasn't issues of hunting back then. When the founders came, it wasn't an issue of target practicing why they created the Second Amendment. There was a guy named King George.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Right. First, he gave you the tongue, meaning with your First Amendment and your right to free speech, your right to assemble, your right to freedom of religion, and the government won't establish a religion, and your right to redress of grievances, all put in that nice First Amendment. So as soon as you tick somebody off, oh, by the way, we're going to give you a Second Amendment. So it says, now you have a right to defend yourself. It wasn't about target practice. It wasn't about just personal self-defense.
Yeah.
It was King George. It was protecting us from a rogue government.
Yep. And it's good to see the Supreme Court has upheld that it is an individual right. It is not just a right reserved for the military, or some people like to say that the military is the militia spoken of in the Constitution.
I would say that New Hampshire respects the Second Amendment a lot more than Chicago, or Detroit, I should say. Or is it or both?
Yeah, that's for sure.
And it seems to me that as the government tightens up the rules, that the more violence seems to happen. It's just the most ironic thing.
Mayor Bloomberg and the Mayors Against Gun Violence have opened a PAC here in New Hampshire to work against political candidates who believe in the Second Amendment. And
I believe in it, so let's go.
Yeah, let's go. And as do I, very, very, very strongly. Especially with the heritage I have, early heritage in this country, while King George things were going on here.
Right.
Or there, so they came here, my ancestors. Very much believe in that freedom. I think the Second Amendment is essential to freedom. And just because we have that freedom, we don't face a lot of tyrannies and other problems that you might, just because the freedom's there, even though you never have to pick it up.
You know, at first I remember seeing some buses a while back. They were busing the kids to see the Hunger Games from some of the schools. And my dander was up. Why is the school sending the kids to go see the Hunger Games? What is this about? This has got to be some kind of... And I was all up and about it. And then I went and saw the Hunger Games. And I thought, wow, what a masterpiece. You know what? Those people weren't armed. You know, they did a little protest, and that was all they had. Yeah. They weren't armed. And you know, it's funny how that people say that, well, religion is the opiate of the masses. It's not the opiate of the masses. Hollywood is the opiate of the masses. And it seems to be detracting from our core values over and over again. And I just saw that in the Hunger Games as well, where it was the entertainment class and the very wealthy that were exploiting the middle or the little people. And the little people were disarmed, and they were part of their game. And all they had was the protest. And of course, there was another series of something else that was coming out. Yeah. But I thought that was actually, if you missed that message, it's too bad. But that was a very important message.
Makes us very special here, where the power remains with the people. At the ballot box, and it's my hope and prayer that people will be sick and tired of being told which doctor they have to go to. Right. That they must buy health insurance. I know that my oldest son, who's in law school, he's almost 30, his premium over doubled this year because of Obamacare. And he's trying to work his way, through law school. He doesn't need that. I think the young people are going to realize that they're the ones that premiums are going to go up exponentially because they're the healthy ones. Right.
And they'll have no room to growth because they'll be paying all this towards a system where they can't choose their doctors. And their lives are exposed to bureaucrats on every level.
I think we've learned that we don't get the best education when we don't have choice of where our children can go. We could do better if we had choice in education. We got choice in where we buy our electricity, and a lot of people have changed from the standard provider and saved money. If we had choice in education, choice in healthcare, when our citizens have choices, things turn out a lot better than when the government tells them what they need.
And they have a common sense. If they see something's awry, they'll speak their minds because they're actively engaged. And if you're not actively engaged, you're basically you're closing the door on your future. You really are. I think we're going to be closing out our show unless you have any final thoughts. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah. You can get in touch with me or the campaign at davewheeler.org. You want to sign up and volunteer, that's the place. You want to donate, that's the place. And you have any comments, feedback about anything we've talked about, I'd love to hear your thoughts. davewheeler.org.
Okay, and your area is Nashua?
Litchfield, Hudson, Nashua, Merrimack, Hollis, over into Mount Vernon, Amherst, Milford, all the way to Swansea to the west, and Dunbarton, Hillsborough, Deering, most of the northern part of Hillsborough County as well.
Wow.
Big district, one-fifth of the state.
That's big.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you you running. We wish you all the best. You definitely have my endorsement. You're kinfolk. I really believe in you as a person, and I really appreciate you coming on the show and for running. I know it's not a lot of money to run for office. I mean, it's a lot of money to run, and you don't get a lot in return, other than the fact that you're giving your lives like our founders did.
Yeah.
They're the inspiration, and that's the model. That's what we do here in New Hampshire. So, thanks again.
All right, thank you.
And thanks for watching Speak Up. We really appreciate you watching the show. And if you have any comments, if you want to come on the show, I never ask if you're a Democrat or a Republican. You're all welcome to come on the show. You want to speak your mind, please come. This is a platform for you. And if we disagree, we'll disagree, but at least you're going to have a voice to be heard. So until next week, thanks for watching Speak Up. If you would like to be a guest on Speak Up, please contact me at speakupnh@gmail.com. We'll help you be heard.
Every day, citizens around the country are faced with new dilemmas that affect them profoundly. Whether it's injustice, discrimination, falling through the cracks, scandals and cronyism, balances of power, ethics, religious freedoms, state versus citizens, and unfunded mandates, and the list goes on and on and on. Welcome to Speak Up. It's directed at those who have fallen through the cracks, and it gives them a voice. It's your turn to speak up, to stand up and fight back.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.